make sure you check out the description below to get your free class code to try my online belly dance classes. So today we're going to be talking about warming up our hands and our fingers. So you might be asking yourself, why do we warm up? Especially these parts. Well, we'll get to why we're going to warm up these parts in a moment. But let's talk about just warming up in general. The first thing that warming up allows us to do is get body awareness, start to get in our body, feel the feelings that come with actually moving our body about, bending our body, elongating, all of this stuff. So it really allows your mind to presence itself in your person. Another thing that allows us to do is to prevent injury. A lot of the time, injury can be caused by not bringing that awareness to body, but also not warming it up in order to allow it to have that elasticity, to get the juices flowing in our joints, all of that stuff. So it's really important that even if you're not doing your hands and your fingers, that you're warming up the body, at least in general, to allow heat to generate within yourself, to have those muscles move more fluidly, have more fluid in the joints, and movement is just really healthy. So when you are warming up the body before you're doing the more intense movement, it allows your body to get primed for those movements. So we briefly talked about muscles and joints, but one of the things that we love about warming up is that it allows your body to elongate, to be limber. So that way when you want to move your body, you're able to and not feel like you're tight or that you're like catching in some way that you can't really utilize your body to its fullest potential. So a lot of the time we warm up to really get our muscles going, feel that elongation, feel like we can be limber, feel like we can be flexible, because that's really important in optimizing the movement that we are doing for that day. So whether you're running, you're dancing, you're walking, any of that stuff, warming up and cooling down is really important. Specifically for us as dancers, warming up is really important because it allows that really nice range of motion and that fluidity that we love and that smoothness that we love in our rock sharky. So when you feel tight or you feel like you can't get there with your body or stretch the full way, what ends up happening is your range of motion starts to become smaller, and then you feel like if you push yourself too far, what may happen? You may get injured, and we don't want that to happen. Hence, the warming up can prevent injury, right? So when you're thinking about why is it important to take as much time as possible to warm up, I say it like that because a lot of the time our dance classes are like an hour, but to really get fully warmed up, it can take 15 to 30 minutes to get your body really going so you can optimize the movement you're about to do. But we don't always have that luxury. So even if it's like a quick minute or a minute and a half or 2 or even 3 minutes, if you can get that time to warm up, you'll get that range of motion you're looking for. You'll get that full body movement. You'll get that looseness that you're looking for, especially when we perform this art form. We don't want to look rigid. We don't want to look tense. We don't want to look like or feel like we're carrying all this stress and tension in our body, which tends to happen when we just don't give it time to loosen up. So super important, whatever you do before you practice and before you perform, you want to warm up. Okay, so let's talk about how we can actually warm up our hands and our fingers. So you may notice that I have a brace. I injured actually my elbow, but I have to isolate my wrist in order to do this, in order to help my elbow. So a lot of my demonstration will be on my right side, your left in the screen, so that way you can see all the motions. But one of the things we want to be aware of when we are warming up is that you want to work the areas next to the spot of which you want to be working. So if I am warming up my hand here, I also want to be warming up my wrist. And it would also do you good to warm up your elbow as well. And you may be asking yourself, who warms up their elbow? Well, let me tell you, people who want good body movement and good awareness, they get these joints going and have all of that body fluid in their joints going so they're ready to move. So although we're working with our hands and our fingers, we want to be working on our wrist and our elbow. And of course, you can always extrapolate out into your shoulder and your upper back and neck. So all of this is connected when we do our warm up. So, and if you have an injury like I do, and you can't necessarily work your hands in that way. We want to find alternate ways of just getting the body moving and getting it limber in a way that we can control the movement more easily, as well as it not feel so rigid and tight and stuck. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm just going to work my way up here, and I'm going to start with just waving my fingers like this. And of course you can go the opposite way as well, but I'm going to go from my fingers first. So all I'm doing is I'm waving my fingers like this, right? I'm going pinky, ring finger, middle finger, index finger, thumb. Pinky, ring finger, middle, index, thumb. And I'm just continuing to go back and forth like this. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna start to reverse it in a moment, but if you are paying attention to how this feels, you'll notice tension start to build in your forearm, in your hand, in your knuckles, and we're just getting all of that awake right now, so that way when we dance, we're not holding any tension right here, and it doesn't take away from our performance, right? So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go the other way. So I'm gonna go thumb, index, middle, ring, and pinky, and then I'm gonna close my hand in like this, okay? Close it into a fist where your thumb is tucked under. Pew, 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 pew. Pew, 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 pew. Pew, 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 pew. Right? And we're gonna go back and forth. So even though this hand is, or this arm is in this brace, I can still do these movements with my other hand. So I'm gonna have that one join in, okay? And you can start to feel all of your arms start to engage. And you might be wondering, why is this getting tense and why is this working down here? Well, if you pay attention and you wiggle your fingers, you'll notice a muscle moving right here. So just go ahead and place your arm in front of you and then wiggle your fingers, and you're going to notice that this muscle is kind of moving like an ocean wave. And so that's why you may feel it here. So you see why it's starting to get important, why to loosen up the elbow as well. Super important. So we're going to go back to our thumb and close, thumb and close, thumb and close, thumb and close, thumb and close. Now the next exercise that we're going to do is we're going to tap. And I learned this from when I was playing piano. My piano teacher had me do this so I had more finger agility. So what I did was I tapped my thumb to each one of my fingers, and I did it about 4 times each, and then reduced the amount of times that I did it, and then went faster. 1, 2, 3, 4, pinky and ring and middle and index, and again middle and ring and pinky, do and ring, do and middle, do and finger, index. Now we're gonna stay here for a moment, and we're gonna go down to 2 counts, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, switch, 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 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, boom, 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 boom. I obviously can't bebop, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Boom, boo, dee. Boop, 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 boop. Now, I have to, you guys, listen, if you're going to sit here and tap your fingers, make yourself entertained or play some music, right? Boop, 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 boop. Now we're going to go to 1 time each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, breathe, 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 breathe. Yes. Not only is it like, can I keep with it? You're going to speed it up, right? And eventually there'll come a point where you just can't go any faster, and that's okay. But the point is also, one, to focus on something so isolated, right? And warming up your fingers so that when we do this really beautiful movement, your knuckles are ready to go. Because when my teacher taught me how to do hand undulations, I had to move from the palm, the heel of my hand, to these knuckles, and then to my finger knuckles. So how did I do that? I had to isolate and start practice isolating all of this. And this is one of those things where once your mind becomes aware of it, then we can do more. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to warm up our hands, okay? So I'm going to close the fists and then open wide, and do as much as you can that doesn't cause any uncomfortability, because I have students that have arthritis, and doing this may cause their fingers to be uncomfortable afterwards. So you want to be aware of your body and what it needs. Yeah? Boom, 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 ba ba. Open and close, and open and close. And the really important part here is that when you open as much as you can, and then with each time you're going to stretch just a little bit more, and stretch and stretch and stretch and stretch and stretch and stretch and stretch. Good. Give your hand a little bit of a wiggle. Good. So now what we're going to do is these knuckles right here, I'm going to try and push them forward. Push, 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 push. So I'm aiming for these 4 knuckles here to be motivated in my hand versus me pushing my whole hand forward or looking like this, right? I'm really wanting to motivate just from the knuckles here. Boom, 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 boom. And you're doing both hands right now, yeah? Boom, 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 boom. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. Give it a little shake. Allow your arms to dingle, 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 dingle. Good. Now let's go to the wrist. So one of the things that we typically warm up with is a wrist circle. So let's go ahead and do that very gently. And as you get more comfortable with the movement and as you loosen up that joint, then you can go faster. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now what we're going to do is we're going to draw a figure 8 with our wrist. So right now I'm just circling it. Yeah, like I have cane in my hand and a saya, and I'm flipping it around, right? Circle. Now I want to have a figure 8. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So from this angle, you'll see my thumb come into me and then flip my hand as if I were doing this movement, right? But I'm going to go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, figure 8, figure 8, figure 8, figure 8. You're doing with this with both hands, yeah? Both wrists. Nice. So you may be asking yourself, do I have to spend time just doing this alone? No, absolutely not. You can do this while you're doing other movements. Let's say you wanted to throw a hip circle in there and you're just like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. The point is to warm up your body so that way it is good to go when you need to move. Good. Shake it out. And now we're gonna bend at the elbow. So you're just gonna allow your hand to drop to your side and then just come up, boom, up, kind of like you're doing a bicep curl. Oh yeah, look at them guns. Oh, I'm just kidding. So you're just gonna curl up and down, up and down. And we're just, essentially, we're using our elbow, right? And then you're open right now with your palm. And then what will happen is you can also close and you will end up engaging more muscle. So more muscle will be engaged while you warm up, right? So we want to do both. 1, 2, and like 10 of each on both sides, right? And if you want more or feel that you need more, then go ahead and do more. A lot of the time when I'm doing exercises or I'm warming up the body, go ahead and open your hand. I do 3 sets of 10 or at least 2 sets of 10, depending on the time that I have, right? But I also want to make sure I don't hurt myself anymore. Good. And then flip your hands now, and we're going to help use this whole muscle. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now, bring your elbow up, drop it down. Bring your elbow up, drop it down. Both sides, bring your elbow up, drop it down, bring your elbow up and drop, up and drop, up and drop, and up and drop. So we're just getting that awake. We're using our bicep, we're using our tricep here. Boom, 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 boom. Narrower field of range of motion, boom, boom. So not a snake arm, right? We're really trying to focus on the elbow. We're not following through the full arm right now. 1, 2, but then you can go into a snake arm, of course, right? Boom, 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 Boom. Now, shake everything up, blah, 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 and you should feel really warmed up at this point because we went from one end of the spectrum to the other and we're awakening everything. So if there's anything else you need to do, or you're like, you know what, I want to really just individually see why I was hesitant, right? My middle finger. If you want to stretch these fingers individually, by all means, that's a great other exercise and warm up to put with your hands and your fingers. But the point is that you feel more open in your body after doing the warm up. This is essential to making sure we can get the fullest of the fullest of the fullest of movement with our dancing. Okay, so the last thing that I want to talk about is you might be asking me, why the hands and the fingers? Listen, this is like the sprinkles on your cupcake. This is the crusty edge on your brownie. This is the salty, buttery goodness on your toast. One of the things that we as humans do when we see other people is we note in our head, in our survival brain, right? Is that person safe? Would I trust that person? Do they look tense? What is the impact of seeing that person on me? And your hands are one of the body parts that we look at first in order to determine, is that person safe? Can I trust them? Do they look nervous, uncomfortable? Do they look like someone I can approach? It's crazy, right? And this is from your hands. So if we're doing this when we're just walking by other people, right? What's happening when we're dancing? Like if I walk down the sidewalk and I see someone like this with their hands completely covered and I'm just like, do, 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 I'm wondering to myself, why are their hands behind their back? And it leaves that sense of mistrust, not in like horrible, like, oh, I can't trust you no matter what kind of way, but it's the first impression, right, that you may have is like, oh, that's curious as to why their hands are right there. Or what if I walked like this? You'd be like, oh, that's really curious as to why that person is walking around with their one hand behind their head and the other one's up here. So it's definitely something that we pay attention to just as humans. So imagine what we're doing when we're dancing. If I have this beautiful fluid movement in my body, but then my hands are like really uneven like this, what are you paying attention to? You're not paying attention to this. You're paying attention to this. So we want to make sure that this and this is in sync. This is why we're paying attention to this, because if I carry my stress in my hands and in my shoulders, what's going to happen? It's going to show up in my dance, and then it's going to take away the message that I want to give to my audience as a performer. So we want to make sure we get clear on that, and this is one of the reasons why we are working on this so diligently, to make sure that the sprinkles on that cupcake, the crispy edge on that brownie, the salty buttery goodness that's on my toast is on point. So really important to warm up the body, really important to not neglect this area of our body. And a lot of my students have asked me, how do I get better at my hand movements, my hand undulations, my hand circles? I warm up. I teach it agility. I warm up. I bring awareness, my brain, I bring awareness to my hands, and I pay attention to it as I dance. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful in explaining why we need to pay attention to our hands and our fingers when we're doing Rock Sharky. If you haven't already subscribed to my video, please do. And if you have already, thank you so very much. Make sure that you check out the description so you can check out a free online belly dance class with me, and I'll see you next time.